It's funny that the shade is saying that, when here we've already reached the end of our longing. Kind of. I long to see the end of this book. Perhaps you do too. Alright, chapter 68. Yes, the voluntary beggar. When Zarathustra had left the ugliest man, he was chilled and felt lonesome, for much coldness and lonesomeness came over his spirit, so that even his limbs became colder thereby. When, however, he wandered on, up hill and down, at times past green meadows, though also sometimes over wild, stony couches. Couches, really? Where formerly perhaps an impatient brook had made its bed. Then he turned all at once warmer and heartier again. What hath happened unto me? He asked himself. Something warm and living quickeneth me. It must be in the neighborhood. Already I am less alone. Unconscious companions and brethren rove around me. Their warm breath touched my soul. When, however, he spied about and sought for the comforters of his lonesomeness, behold, there were kine there standing together on an eminence, whose proximity and smell had warmed his heart. The kine, however, seemed to listen eagerly to the speaker, and took no heed of him who approached. When, however, Zarathustra was quite nigh unto them, then did he hear plainly that a human voice spake in the midst of the kine, and apparently all of them had turned their heads towards the speaker. Then ran Zarathustra up speedily and drove the animals aside, for he feared that someone had here met with harm, which the pity of the kine would hardly be able to relieve. But in this he was deceived, for, behold, there sat a man on the ground who seemed to be persuading the animals to have no fear of him, a peaceable man and preacher on the mount, out of whose eyes kindness itself preached. What dost thou seek here? Called out Zarathustra in astonishment. What do I seek here? Answered he. The same as thou seekest, thou mischief maker, that is to say, happiness upon earth. To that end, however, I would fain learn of these kine, for I tell thee that I have already talked half a morning unto them, and just now were they about to give me their answer. Why dost thou disturb them? Except we be converted and become as kine, we shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven, for we ought to learn from them one thing, ruminating. And verily, although a man should gain the whole world, and yet not learn one thing, ruminating, what would it profit him? He would not be rid of his affliction, his great affliction, that, however, is at present called disgust. Who hath not at present his heart, his mouth, and his eyes full of disgust? Thou also. But behold these kine. Thus spake the preacher on the mount, and turned then his own look towards Zarathustra, for hitherto it had rested lovingly on the kine. Then, however, he put on a different expression. Who is this with whom I talk? He exclaimed, frightened, and sprang up from the ground. This is the man without disgust. This is Zarathustra himself, the surmounter of the great disgust. This is the eye, this is the mouth, this is the heart of Zarathustra himself. And while he thus spake, he kissed with overflowing eyes the hands of him with whom he spake, and behaved altogether like one to whom a precious gift and jewel hath fallen unawares from heaven. The kine, however, gazed at it all and wondered. Speak not of me, thou strange one, thou amiable one, said Zarathustra, and restrained his affection. Speak to me firstly of thyself. Art thou not the voluntary beggar who once cast away great riches? who was ashamed of his riches and of the rich, and fled to the poorest to bestow upon them his abundance and his heart. But they received him not. But they received me not, said the voluntary beggar. Thou knowest it, forsooth. So I went at last to the animals and to those kind. Then learnest thou, interrupted Zarathustra, how much harder it is to give properly than to take properly, and that bestowing well is an art, the last, subtlest master art of kindness. Especially nowadays, answered the voluntary beggar. At present, that is to say, when everything low hath become rebellious and exclusive and haughty in its manner, in the manner of the populace. For the hour hath come, thou knowest it forsooth, for the great, evil, long, slow mob and slave insurrection, it extendeth and extendeth. Now doth it provoke the lower classes, all benevolence, and petty giving, and the overrich may be on their guard. Whoever at present drip, like bulgy bottles, out of all too small necks, such bottles at present one willingly breaketh the necks. Wanton avidity, bilious envy, careworn revenge, populous pride, all these struck mine eye. It is no longer true that the poor are blessed. The kingdom of heaven, however, is with the kind. And why is it not with the rich? Asked Zarathustra temptingly, while he kept back the kind which sniffed familiarly at the peaceful one. Why dost thou tempt me? Answered the other. Thou knowest it thyself better even than I. What was it drove me to the poorest, O Zarathustra? Was it not my disgust at the richest, at the culprits of riches, with cold eyes and rank thoughts, who pick up profit out of all kinds of rubbish, at this rabble that stinketh to heaven, at this gilded, falsified populace, whose fathers were pickpockets, or carrion crows, or rag-pickers, with wives compliant, lewd, and forgetful. For they are all of them not far different from harlots, populace above, populace below, which are poor and rich at present. That distinction did I unlearn. Then did I flee further away and even further, till I came to those kind. Thus spake the peaceful one, and puffed himself and perspired with his words, so that the kind wondered anew. Zarathustra, however, kept looking into his face with a smile. All the time, the man talked so severely, and shook silently his head. Thou dost violence to thyself, thou preacher on the mount, when thou usest such severe words, for such severity neither by mouth nor thine eye have been given thee, nor, methink, hath thy stomach either. Unto it all such rage and hatred and foaming over is repugnant. Thy stomach wanteth softer things. Thou art not a butcher. Rather seemest thou to me a plant-eater and a root-man. Perhaps thou grindest corn. Certainly, however, thou art averse to fleshly joys, and thou lovest honey. Thou hast divined me well, answered the voluntary beggar, with lightened heart. I love honey. I also grind corn, for I have sought out what tasteth sweetly and maketh pure breath. Also, what requireth a long time, a day's work, and a mouth's work, for gentle idlers and sluggards. For this, to be sure, have those kind carried it. They have devised ruminating and lying in the sun. They also abstain from all heavy thoughts, which inflate the heart. Well, said Zarathustra, thou shouldst also see mine animals, mine eagle and my serpent. Their like do not at present exist on earth. Behold, thither leadeth the way to my cave. Be tonight its guest, and talk to mine animals of the happiness of animals, until I myself come home. For now, a cry of distress calleth me hastily away from thee. Also, shouldst thou find new honey with me, ice-cold, golden comb honey, eat it. Now, however, Take leave at once of thy kind, thou strange one, thou amiable one, though it be hard for thee, for they are thy warmest friends and preceptors. One excepted, whom I hold still dear, answered the voluntary beggar. Thou thyself are good, Zarathustra, and even better than a cow. Away, away with thee, thou evil flatterer, cried Zarathustra mischievously. Why dost thou spoil me with such praise and flattery, honey? Away from me, cried he once more, and heaved his stick at the fond beggar, who, however, ran nimbly away. It's kind of in jest, making a joke. It's just like, don't flatter me. And he's just shaking his stick at him. Off with you. Get out of here. But he's not chasing him away. He's not like saying, to hell with you, get out of here. He's chasing him off in a jokingly way, saying, get out of here. Go on, back up to my house. Go on, we'll see you there later. Chapter 69, The Shadow. Scarcely, however, was the voluntary beggar gone in haste, and Zarathustra again alone, when he heard behind him a new voice which called out, Stay, Zarathustra, do wait. It is myself, forsooth, Zarathustra, myself, thy shadow. But Zarathustra did not wait, for a sudden irritation came over him on the account of the crowd and the crowding in his mountains. Whither hath my lonesomeness gone? Spake he thee, that's a new one. For it is verily becoming too much for me. These mountains swarm. My kingdom is no longer of this world. I require new mountains. My shadow calleth me, but what matter about my shadow? Let it run after me. I run away from it. Thus spoke Zarathustra to his heart and ran away, but the one behind followed after him. And so immediately there were 3 runners, one after the other, namely, foremost the voluntary beggar, then Zarathustra, and thirdly, and hindmost, his shadow. But not long had they run thus, when Zarathustra became conscious of his folly, and shook off with one jerk all his irritation and destination. What? Said he. Have not the most ludicrous things always happened to us, old anchorites and saints? Verily, my folly hath grown big in the mountains. Now do I hear 6 old fools, legs rattling behind one another. But doth Zarathustra need to be frightened by his shadow? Also, methinketh that after all it hath longer legs than mine. Thus spake Zarathustra, and, laughing with eyes and entrails, he stood still, turned round quickly, and, behold, he almost thereby threw his shadow and follower to the ground. So closely had the latter followed at his heels, and so weak was he, for when Zarathustra scrutinized him with his glance, he was frightened, as by a sudden apparition, so slender, swarthy, hollow, and worn out, did this follower appear. Who art thou? asked Zarathustra vehemently. What dost thou here, and why callest thou self my shadow? Thou art not pleasing unto me. Forgive me, answered the shadow, that it is I. If I please thee not, well, Zarathustra, therein do I admire thee and thy good taste. A wanderer am I, who have walked long at thy heels, always on the way, but without a goal, and also without a home, so that verily I lack little of being the eternally wandering Jew, except that I am not eternal and not a Jew. What must I ever be on the way, whirled by every wind, unsettled, driven about? O earth, thou hast become too round for me. On every surface have I already sat. Like tired dust have I fallen asleep on mirrors and window panes. Everything taketh from me, nothing giveth. I become thin, and I am almost equal to a shadow. After thee, however, Zarathustra, did I fly, and high longest, and though I hid myself from thee, I was nevertheless thy best shadow. Wherever thou hast sat, there sat I also. With thee have I wandered about in the remotest, coldest worlds, like a phantom that voluntarily haunteth winter roofs and snows. With thee have I pushed unto all the forbidden, all the worst, all and the furthest. And if there be anything of virtue in me, it is that I have had no fear of any prohibition. With thee have I broken up whatever my heart revered. All boundary stones and statues have I overthrown. The most dangerous wishes did I pursue. Verily, beyond every crime once did I go. Beyond every crime did I once go. Same meaning. With thee did I unlearn the belief in words and worths, and in great names. When the devil casteth his skin, doth not his name also fall away? It is also skin. The devil himself is, perhaps, skin. Nothing is true. All is permitted. So said I to myself. Unto the coldest water did I plunge with head and heart. How oft did I stand there, naked on that account, like a red crab? Where have gone all my goodness, and all my shame, and all my belief in the good? Where is the lying innocence which I once possessed, the innocence of the good, and of their noble lies? Too oft, verily, did I follow close to the heels of truth. Then did it kick me on the face. Sometimes I meant to lie, and behold, then only did I hit the truth. Too much hath become clear unto me. Now it doth not concern me any more. Nothing liveth any longer that I love. How should I still love myself? To live as I incline, or not to live at all. So do I wish. So wisheth also the holiest. But, alas, how have I still inclination? Have I still a goal, a haven towards which my sail is set? A good wind? He only who knoweth whither he saileth knoweth what wind is good, and a fair wind for him. What still remaineth to me? A heart weary and philippant, and unstable will, fluttering wings, a broken backbone. Thus seeking for my home, Zarathustra, dost thou know that this seeking hath been my home sickening? It eateth me up. Where is my home? For it do I ask and seek, and have sought, but have not found it. O eternal everywhere, eternal nowhere, eternal in vain. Thus spake the shadow, and Zarathustra's countenance lengthened at his words. Thou art my shadow, said he at last, sadly. Thy danger is not small. Thou free spirit and wanderer, thou hast had a bad day. See that a still worse evening doth not overtake thee. To such unsettled ones as thou, seemeth at last even a prisoner blessed. Didst thou ever see how captured criminals sleep? They sleep quietly. They enjoy their new security. Beware lest in the end a narrow faith capture thee, a hard, rigorous delusion, for now everything that is narrow and fixed seduceth and tempteth thee. Thou hast lost thy goal, alas. How wilt thou forego and forget that loss? Thereby hast thou also lost thy way. Thou poor rover and rambler, thou tired butterfly, wilt thou have a rest and a home this evening? Then go up to my cave. Thither leadeth the way to my cave, and now will I run quickly away from thee again. Already lieth, as it were, a shadow upon me. I will run alone, so that it may again become bright around me. Therefore must I still be a long time merrily upon my legs. In the evening, however, there will be dancing with me. Thus spake Zarathustra. Quick break. I would have to stop, recollect, and think of how many people we've met so far. On this weird journey, something like 8, perhaps 9 people. But this one was interesting. The one before the shadow was just a guy who's like this saint, like a Disney princess, hanging out with, I guess, animals, and just hanging around with them and talking with them. And that's cool. But when he met Zarathustra, he's like, "Oh my God, you're like the, you're him." Apparently, he knows of Zarathustra. A lot of people know of him, and he's respected him. And he's like, he doesn't say, "I learned this from you," but they found an equal in each other in some way. And Zarathustra tested him, kind of like a Turing test. The Turing test being a test you give to an android to see if they're really a human or just programmed to act that way. Was this guy just acting like he was wise, or did he really know? And so Zarathustra kind of tested him. But he answered well, and Zarathustra was like, "Please come to my home, hang out with us." And then he met his shadow. And his shadow, from, I guess, following Zarathustra in his ways for so long, he's lost his own longing. He doesn't know where he belongs. He doesn't know what he should do. It's interesting because we're playing the longing, and we're at this point where we didn't pick any of the 5, maybe we've picked our own 5 endings. We've picked our own, perhaps a 6th ending, but it's not an end. It's just continuing. It's not a destination. We're already there. So it's kind of a parallel, this person, this character, who doesn't have this goal. Well, we have a goal. I'm going to start speedrunning the game. But yeah, just the mirror, the parts that do mirror. I thought that was quite peculiar. Here we are at the end, meeting this character who's like that. Chapter 70, Noontide. And Zarathustra ran and ran, but he found no one else, and was alone, and never found himself again. He enjoyed and quaffed his solitude, and thought of good things for hours. About the hour of noontide, however, when the sun stood exactly over Zarathustra's head, he passed an old bent and gnarled tree, which was encircled round by the ardent love of a vine, and hidden from itself. From this there hung yellow grapes in abundance, confronting the wanderer. Then he felt inclined to quench a little thirst, and to break off for himself a cluster of grapes. When, however, he had already his arm out, stretched for that purpose, he felt still more inclined for something else, namely, to lie down beside the tree at the hour of perfect noontide and sleep. This Zarathustra did, and no sooner had he laid himself on the ground in the stillness and secrecy of the variegated grass, than he had forgotten his little thirst, and fell asleep. For as the proverb of Zarathustra saith, one thing is more necessary than the other, only that his eyes remained open, for they never grew weary of viewing and admiring the tree and the love of the vine. In falling asleep, however, Zarathustra spake thus to his heart, Hush, hush, hath not the world now become perfect? What hath happened unto me? As a delicate wind danceth invisibly upon paraqueted seas, light feather light, so danceth sleep upon me. No eye doth it close to me, it leaveth my soul awake. Light is it, verily, feather light. It persuadeth me, I know not how, it toucheth me inwardly with a caressing hand, it constraineth me. Yea, it constraineth me, so that my soul stretcheth itself out. How long and weary it becometh, my strange soul. Hath a 7th day evening come to it precisely at noontide? Hath it already wandered too long, blissfully, among good and ripe things? It stretcheth itself out, longer. It lieth still, my strange soul. Too many good things hath it already tasted. This golden sadness oppresseth it. It distorteth its mouth. As a ship that putteth into the calmest cove, it now draweth up to the land, weary of long voyages and uncertain seas. Is not the land more faithful? As such, a ship huggeth the shore, tuggeth the shore, then it sufficeth for a spider to spin its thread from the ship to the land. No stronger ropes are required there. As such a weary ship in the calmest cove, so do I also now repose, nigh to the earth, faithful, trusting, waiting, bound to it, with the lightest threads. Oh, happiness, happiness, wilt thou perhaps sing, my soul? Thou liest in the grass, but this is the secret solemn hour, when no shepherd playeth his pipe. Take care. Hot noontide sleepeth on the fields. Do not sing. Hush. The world is perfect. Do not sing, thou prairie bird, thy soul. Do not even whisper. Hush. The old noontide sleepeth. It moveth its mouth. Doth it not just now drink a drop of happiness? An old brown drop of golden happiness. Golden wine? Something whisketh over it, its happiness laugheth. Thus laugheth a god. Hush. For happiness, how little sufficeth for happiness. Thus spake I once, and thought myself wise, but it was a blasphemy. That have I now learned. Wise fools speak better. The least thing precisely, the gentlest thing, the lightest thing. A lizard's rustling, a breath, a whisk, an eye-glance, little maketh up the best happiness. Hush. What hath befallen me? Hark. Hath time flown away? Do I not fall? Have I not fallen, hark, into the well of eternity? What happeneth to me? Hush, it stingeth me, alas, to the heart, to the heart. Break up my heart after such happiness, after such a sting. What, hath not the world just now become perfect, round, and ripe? For the golden round ring, whither doth it fly? Let me run after it, quick. Hush. And here Zarathustra stretched himself and felt that he was asleep. Up, he said to himself, thou sleeper, thou noontide sleeper. Well then, up, ye old legs. It is time, and more than time. Many a good stretch of road is still awaiting you. Now, have ye slept your fill? For how long a time? A half eternity? Well then, up now, mine old heart. For how long after such a sleep mayest thou remain awake? But then did he fall asleep anew, and his soul spake against him, and defended itself. Lay down again. Leave me alone. Hush. Hath not the world just now become perfect? Oh, for the golden round ball. Get up, said Zarathustra, thou little thief, thou sluggard. What? Still stretching thyself, yawning, sighing, falling into deep wells? Who art thou then, O my soul? And he became frightened, for a sunbeam shot down from heaven upon his face. The heaven above me, he said, sighing, and he sat upright. Thou gazest at me? Thou hearkenest unto my strange soul? When wilt thou drink this drop of dew that fell down upon all earthly things? When wilt thou drink this, strange soul? When thou well of eternity, thou joyous, awful noontide abyss, when will thou drink my soul back unto thee? Thus spake Zarathustra, and rose from his couch beside the tree, as if awakening from a strange drunkenness, and behold, there stood the sun still exactly above his head. One might, however, rightly infer therefrom that Zarathustra had not then slept long. '71. The Greeting. It was late in the afternoon, Only when Zarathustra, after long useless searching and strolling about, again came home to his cave. When, however, he stood over against it, not more than 20 paces therefrom, a thing happened which he now least of all expected. He heard anew the great cry of distress, and extraordinary, this time the cry came out of his own cave. It was a long, manifold, peculiar cry, and Zarathustra plainly distinguished that it was comprised of many voices, although heard at a distance it might sound like the cry of a single mouth. Thereupon Zarathustra rushed forward to his cave, and behold, what a spectacle awaited him after that concert! For there did they all sit together, whom he had passed during the day, the king on the right and the king on the left, the old magician, the pope, the voluntary beggar, the shadow, the intellectually conscientious one, the sorrowful soothsayer, and the ass. The ugliest man, however, had set a crown upon his head, and had put round him 2 purple girdles, for he liked, like all ugly ones, to disguise himself and play the handsome person. In the midst, however, of that sorrowful company stood Zarathustra's eagle, ruffled and disquieted, for it had been called upon to answer too much, for which its pride had not any answer. The wise serpent, however, hung around its neck. All this did Zarathustra behold with great astonishment. Then, however, he scrutinized each individual guest with courteous curiosity, read their souls, and wondered anew. In the meantime, the assembled ones had risen from their seats and waited with reverence for Zarathustra to speak. Zarathustra, however, spake thus: "Ye despairing ones, ye strange ones, so it was your cry of distress that I heard, and now do I know also where he is to be sought, whom I have sought for in vain today, the higher man. In mine own cave sitteth he, the higher man. But why do I wonder? Have not I myself allured him to me by honey offerings and artful lure calls of my happiness? But it seemeth to me that ye are badly adapted for company. Ye make one another's hearts fretful. Ye that cry for help when ye sit here together. There is one that must first come, one who will make you laugh once more, a good jovial buffoon, a dancer, a wind, a wild romp, some old fool. What think ye? Forgive me, however, ye despairing ones, for speaketh such trivial words before you, unworthy verily of such guests. But ye do not divine what maketh my heart wanton. Ye yourselves do it, and your aspect. Forgive it me, for every one becometh courageous who beholdeth a despairing one. To encourage a despairing one, every one thinketh himself strong enough to do so. To myself have ye given this power, a good gift, mine honorable guests, an excellent guest's presence. Well, do not then upbraid when I also offer you something of mine. This is mine empire, and mine dominion. That which is mine, however, shall this evening and tonight be yours. Mine animals shall serve you, let my cave be your resting place. At house and home with me shall no one despair. In my purlieu do I protect every one from his wild beasts, and that is the first thing which I offer you, security. The second thing, however, is my little finger, and when ye have that, then take the whole world. When ye have that, then take the whole hand also, yea, and the heart with it. Welcome here, welcome to you, my guests." Thus spake Zarathustra, and laughed with love and mischief. After this greeting, his guests bowed once more and were reverentially silent. The king on the right, however, answered him in their name. "Zarathustra, by the way in which thou hast given us thy hand in thy greeting, we recognize thee as Zarathustra. Thou hast humbled thyself before us, almost hast thou hurt our reverence. Who, however, would have humbled himself as thou hast done, with such pride, that uplifteth us ourselves. A refreshment is it to our eyes and hearts. To behold this, merely, gladly would we ascend higher mountains than this, for as eager beholders have we become. We wanted to see what brighteth dim eyes. And lo, now is it all over with our cries of distress. Now are our minds and hearts open and enraptured. Little is lacking for our spirits to become wanton. There is nothing, Zarathustra, that groweth more pleasingly on earth than a lofty, strong will. It is the finest growth. An entire landscape refresheth itself at one such tree. To the pine do I compare him, Zarathustra, which groweth up like thee, tall, silent, hardy, solitary, of the best, supplest wood, stately. In the end, however, grasping out for its domain, with strong green branches, asking weightily questions of the wind, the storm, and whatever is at home on high places, answering more weightily, a commander, a victor. Oh, who should not ascend high mountains to behold such growths? At thy tree, Zarathustra, the gloomy and ill-constituted also refresh themselves. At thy look even the wavering become steady, and heal their hearts. And verily, towards thy mountain and thy tree do many eyes turn today. A great longing hath arisen, and many have learned to ask, Who is Zarathustra? And those into whose ears thou hast at any time dripped thy song and thy honey, all the hidden ones, the lone dwellers, and the twain dwellers, have simultaneously said to their hearts, Doth Zarathustra still live? It is no longer worth while to live. Everything is indifferent. Everything is useless, or else. We must live with Zarathustra. Why doth he not come, who hath so long announced himself? Thus do many people ask, Hath solitude swallowed him up, or should we perhaps go to him? Now doth it come to pass that solitude itself become fragile, breaketh open, like a grave that breaketh open and can no longer hold its dead. Everywhere one seeth resurrected ones. Now do the waves rise, and rise around thy mountain, O Zarathustra, and however high be thy height, many of them must rise up to thee. Thy boat shall not rest much longer on dry ground. And that we despairing ones have now come into thy cave, and already no longer despair, it is but a prognostic and a presage that better ones are on the way to thee. For they themselves are on the way to thee, the last remnant of God among men, that is to say, all the men of great longing, of great loathing, of great satiety, all who do not want to live unless they learn again to hope, unless they learn from thee, O Zarathustra, the great hope. Thus spake this king on the right, and seized the hand of Zarathustra, in order to kiss it, but Zarathustra checked his veneration, and stepped back, frightened, fleeing, as it were, silently and suddenly into the far distance. After a little while, however, he was again at home with his guests, looked at them with clear, scrutinizing eyes, and said, My guests, ye higher men, I will speak plain language and plainly with you. It is not for you that I have waited here in these mountains. Plain language and plainly? Good God, said here the king on the left to himself, one seeth he doth not know the good Occidentals, whatever the word is, this sage out of the Orient. But he meaneth blunt language, and bluntly. Well, that is not the worst taste in these days. Ye may, verily, all of you be higher men, continued Zarathustra, but for me, ye are neither high enough, nor strong enough. For me, that is to say, for the inexorable, which is now silent in me, but will not always be silent. And if he appertain to me, still it is not as my right arm. For he who himself standeth, like you, on sickly and tender legs, wisheth above all to be treated indulgently, whether he be conscious of it or hide it from himself. My arms and my legs, however, I do not treat indulgently. I do not treat my warriors indulgently. How then could ye be fit for my warfare? With you I should spoil all my victories, and many of you would tumble over, if ye but heard the loud beating of my drums. Moreover, ye are not sufficiently beautiful and well born for me. I require pure, smooth mirrors for my doctrines. On your surface, even mine own likeness is distorted. On your shoulders presseth many a burden, many a recollection, many a mischievous dwarf squatteth in your corners. There is concealed populace also in you. And though ye be of high and of a higher type, much in you is crooked and misshapen. There is no smith in the world that could hammer you right and straight for me. Ye are only bridges. May higher ones pass over upon you. Ye signify steps. So do not upbraid him who ascendeth beyond you into his height. Out of your seed there may one day arise for me a genuine son and perfect heir. But that time is distant. Ye yourselves are not those unto whom my heritage and name belong. Nor for you do I wait here in these mountains. Not with you may I descend for the last time. Ye have come unto me only as a presage that higher ones are on the way to me. Not the men of great longing, of great loathing, of great satiety, and that which ye call the remnant of God. Nay, 3 times nay. For others do I wait here in these mountains, and will not lift my foot from thence without them. For higher ones, stronger ones, triumphanter ones, merrier ones, for such as are built squarely in body and soul, laughing lions must come. My guests, ye strange ones, have ye yet heard nothing of my children, and that they are on the way to me? Do speak unto me of my gardens, of my happy isles, of my new beautiful race. Why do ye not speak unto me thereof? This guest's presence do I solicit of your love, that ye speak unto me of my children. For them I am rich, for them I became poor. What have I not surrendered? What would I not surrender, that I might have this one thing, these children, this living plantation, these life trees of my will and of my highest hope? Thus spake Zarathustra, and stopped suddenly in his discourse, for his longing came over him, and he closed his eyes and his mouth, because of the agitation of his heart. And all his guests were also silent, stood still, confounded, except only that the old soothsayer made signs with his hands and his gestures. I knew it had to come out at some point, where he's gathered all these people, and these seem righteous in their own ways. They've kind of turned around and set a spark in motion. All these people there was 10 of them, I counted 10. The kings I counted individually. If you count the 2 kings and the ass together, that would make it what? 7 or 8? I think 8. 8 groups, right? Okay, doesn't matter. So he shared fancy words with them and made them feel good about themselves. And they also shared fancy words with Zarathustra. And one of the kings tried to kiss his hand, and Zarathustra ran away from that. He was like, what the heck? I'm not going to let you kiss my hand. No. And in some way you might think, why? Is Zarathustra just doesn't want to receive it? Well, In some ways, no, he doesn't want to, because he doesn't think of these people as the greater man, but they are the bridge towards the greater man. And Zarathustra, his true desire is for Superman, that greater man, and that these people, as amazing as they may be, for a king to not give into kingly ways, for a poor man to not give into just charity for their entire life, but for these individuals to have overcome that. Zarathustra sees that as the bridge that he has wanted to exist. The bridge that, or not a bridge, because a bridge is straight, but a stairway, a stepping stone for those who will be greater than that, who are going to step over these people as small, because they would be greater. I think we'll do one more. 72. The Supper. For at this point, the soothsayer interrupted the greeting of Zarathustra and his guests. He pressed forward, as one who had no time to lose, seized Zarathustra's hand, and exclaimed, "But, Zarathustra, one thing is more necessary than the other. So sayest thou thyself. Well, one thing is now more necessary unto me than all others. A word at the right time. Didst thou not invite me to table? And here are many who have made long journeys. Thou dost not mean to feed us merely with discourses? Besides, all of you have thought too much about freezing, drowning, suffocating, and other bodily dangers. None of you, however, have thought of my danger, namely, perishing of hunger." Thus spake the soothsayer. When Zarathustra's animals, however, heard these words, they ran away in terror, for they saw that all they had brought home during the day would not be enough to fill the one soothsayer. "Likewise, perishing of thirst," continued the soothsayer, "and although I hear water splashing here like words of wisdom, that is to say, plenteously and unweariedly, I want wine." Not everyone is a born water drinker, like Zarathustra. Neither doth water suit weary and withered ones. We deserve wine. It alone giveth immediate vigor and improvised health. On this occasion, when the soothsayer was longing for wine, it happened. The king on the left, the silent one, also found expression for once. "We took care," said he, "about wine. I, along with my brother the king on the right, we have enough of wine, a whole ass-load of it. So there is nothing lacking but bread." Oh, I skipped a page. Oh, we closed the book. "Nothing lacking but bread." "Bread," replied Zarathustra, laughing when he spake. "It is precisely bread that anchorites have not. But man doth not live by bread alone, but also by the flesh of good lambs, of which I have 2. These shall we slaughter quickly, and cook spicily with sage. It is so that I like them. And there is also no lack of roots and fruits, good enough even for the fastidious and dainty, nor of nuts and other riddles for cracking." Sounds like a play on words there. "Thus will we have a good repast in a little while, but whoever wish to eat with us must also give a hand to the work, even the kings. For with Zarathustra, even a king may be a cook." This proposal appealed to the hearts of all of them, save that the voluntary beggar objected to the flesh and wine and spices. "Just hear this glutton, Zarathustra," said he jokingly. "Doth one go into caves and high mountains to make such repasts? Now, indeed, do I understand what he once taught us. Blessed be moderate poverty, and why he wisheth to do away with beggars." "Be of good cheer," replied Zarathustra, "as I am. Abide by these customs, thou excellent one. Grind thy corn, drink thy water, raise thy cooking. if only it make thee glad. I am a law only for mine own. I am not a law for all. He, however, who belongeth unto me must be strong of bone, light of foot, joyous in flight and feast, no skulker, no journal dreams, ready for the hardest task, as for the feast, healthy and hale. I've never heard that phrase before, a John of dreams. I understand this book was translated from German, and a lot of the cute plays on words are a bit lost. The best belongeth unto mine and me, and if it be not given us, then do we take it, the best food, the purest sky, the strongest thoughts, the fairest women. Thus spake Zarathustra. The king on the right, however, answered and said, Strange. Did one ever hear such sensible things out of the mouth of a wise man? And verily, it is the strangest thing in a wise man, if over and above he be still sensible, and not an ass. Thus spake the king on the right, and wondered. The ass, however, with ill will, said, Yeah, to his remark. This, however, was the beginning of that long repast, which is called the supper. In the history books, at this, there was nothing else spoken but the higher man. And that would be the next chapter, about the higher man. I think, though, this one might run long. We'll leave this chapter at that. And you'll have to join the next chapter to hear more. In the meantime, it doesn't mean much, but no, I was thinking to let the Shade read a book of his own, but might have need of those books. Each book only works once in turning it to the last page, and I have some ideas that I might need these for.